The Sandman Season 2 begins with Dream's full power restored. He sets about reshaping the dreaming, while his loyal servants, Lucien, Mervyn, and Matthew, watch as the sands of Dream twist into new forms, reflecting their master's renewed vision. But Dream's reconstruction is interrupted by a rare summons, a family meeting of the Endless. Destiny, the eldest, calls his siblings to his realm, the solemn palace that overlooks the Garden of Forking Ways. Destiny, bound to his omniscient book that records every moment and every being, has long borne the burden of knowing all that was and will be. The knowledge is a burden, which has made Destiny appear the most grumpy, overly serious, and responsible among his siblings. Death is the first one to answer his call. Her sincere yet playful nature is evident from her unwillingness to initially abide by the dress code Destiny wants his siblings to adhere to maintain decorum. Dream appears next, followed by Desire, seen at an art gallery, stoking the primal urges of its patrons before slipping away to join the gathering. Despair follows. We get a brief glimpse of her gray realm, a desolate space riddled with windows through which she watches tormented souls. One such soul, a pedophile recently exposed by his wife, is unraveling in anxiety and fear. Despair, enraptured by his hopelessness, marks him as her latest victim before answering Destiny's call. The last to arrive is Delirium, the youngest sibling, whose realm remains unseen for now. Desire wastes no time goading Dream, while Despair and Delirium mention a sibling who remains absent, Destruction, also known as the Prodigal, who abandoned his realm ages ago and has not been heard from since. Destiny finally reveals the reason for their gathering. During a recent walk through his garden, he encountered the Fates, who delivered a cryptic warning. A king will abandon his kingdom, life and death will clash, and the oldest battle will resume. Destiny's book confirms that this meeting of the Endless marks the beginning of an era of upheaval. What that means, however, remains unclear. Dream grows impatient. He'd rather be restoring the dreaming than chatting with siblings he barely tolerates. Desire doesn't help matters by bringing up Nada, the mortal queen Dream once loved and condemned to hell solely because she was not ready to spend an eternity with Dream. Desire mocks Dream's supposed detachment from mortals, calling him a hypocrite for the cruelty he inflicted on someone he once claimed to love. The mention of Nada sends Dream into a silent fury. Destiny warns him to keep his emotions in check, and Dream excuses himself to recover his composure. Death, who is fond of her brother, follows, offering comfort but not absolution. Even she admits that Nada's punishment was unjust. Dream was once enchanted by Nada's vision for her people, a dream that shaped her city and echoed through the dreaming, which made him visit her. Nada, who had fallen in love with the mysterious man in her dreams, later realizes that the man is Morpheus. Their love, however, was doomed. When a meteor razed her city and killed her people, Nada blamed their relationship for the catastrophe. Wanting to make amends, she rejected Dream. But he, too proud and detached from mortal pain, offered her a choice: rule beside him as a goddess in Dream, or be condemned to hell. Nada chose damnation, and has remained in hell for 10,000 years. Death shows him that, like Nada, he too would have overlooked his personal affairs for the sake of his subjects, but still, he chose to punish her for doing the same. Dream is hurt and makes up his mind to rectify his mistake, and much to Death's frustration, he plans to make a return to hell. Morpheus knows the risks. If he dies or is captured, the dreaming could collapse again. After learning of his plans, a disgruntled Lucien questions Dream's need to wager one soul for the billions who reside in dreaming, and Morpheus once again mentions his desire to become a better ruler by putting his life on the line to ensure the rescue of even a single subject. Dream also mentions that he has already sent Cain, the first murderer, as his envoy to Lucifer in hell. Receiving Dream's message from Cain that he is coming to hell to fetch Nada's soul, irrespective of whether Lucifer allows him to, makes the first fallen absolutely livid. Knowing this journey may cost him everything, Dream begins to prepare. He visits Lyda Hall's son, a child conceived in the dreaming, with the ghost of his late father, Hector. Lyda is defensive, still haunted by Dream's claim that he would one day come for the boy. Dream leaves without harm, merely observing the child. For now. Next, he visits his old friend Hob Gadling in a dream. Bringing a rare bottle of wine, Dream warns that this may be their last meeting for a very long time. Hob toasts his friend, and somehow knows he's headed to confront the devil. Cain returns from hell. He brings a message. Lucifer and all of hell await Morpheus's arrival. Despite his subjects' pleas, Dream marches toward the gates of hell. Destiny watches as the pages of his book unfold. In his garden, every visitor must choose their path. Dream has made his choice, to walk into danger and correct a centuries-old wrong. And yet, as he stands before Hell's Gate, even the Lord of Dreams admits he is afraid. Morpheus is expecting the worst. He remembers how Lucifer was insulted during his last visit, and he's certain they've been preparing for revenge ever since. What he doesn't expect is to find Lucifer already waiting for him at the gate. There's something off. Lucifer is referring to themselves in the singular now, not the usual plural. Morpheus notices the shift, but before he can ask, Lucifer speaks. They say they're done. Lucifer declares that they are stepping down as ruler of hell. They've had enough. For eons, every soul condemned to this place has blamed them, as if they were the one who tempted them to sin. They're tired of it. They want to leave, completely, permanently, start over somewhere far away. Morpheus doesn't know what to make of it, but there's an honesty in Lucifer's tone that keeps him from questioning their resolve. Then, unexpectedly, Lucifer asks him to cut off their wings, severing the role and responsibility to hell. Morpheus complies. That's when the trap springs. Lucifer hands Morpheus the key to hell. With that key comes the burden of succession. Lucifer knows that once the gods, demons, and powers of the universe find out the realm is unclaimed, they'll descend on Dream with offers, threats, and bargains until he names a successor. It's a nightmare of cosmic politics, and Lucifer relishes every moment of leaving it behind. Morpheus goes back to the dreaming, conflicted. The weight of it is immense. Unsure of what to do, he turns to his sister, Death. If anyone could rule hell with fairness and resolve, it's her. But Death refuses. Not because she's unwilling, she simply knows she already has her duty. Taking hell would compromise her ability to do what she was made for. And then, the flood begins. Emissaries from across realms begin arriving in the dreaming to make their claim. Each of them wants the key, and each brings their own justification for why they deserve it. Among the claimants are Shivering Gemmy of the Shallow Brigade, Princess of Chaos; Lord Kilderkin, embodiment of order, who communicates via printed notes from within a cardboard box; Cluracan and Lady Nuala, envoys of the fairy court; Lord Odin of the Aesir, accompanied by Thor and Loki; Susanoo no Mikoto, god of storms and the sea; and Lord Azazel, Prince of Hell, representing the dispossessed demons who have lost their home after Lucifer stepped down. The creator also sends his two representatives, Angel Romiel and Angel Duma, to witness Morpheus's decision. Their presence alone makes him uneasy. Each party has an angle. Most try to sway Morpheus with bribes, alliances, or appeals to morality. Gemmy simply wants to spread chaos. Kilderkin offers Morpheus the dream essences of the newly dead, but Morpheus declines. He already has access to them. Cluracan seems more interested in partying than politics, while Nuala speaks with sincerity. She explains that Fairy pays a tithe to hell every 7 years, 9 innocent souls sent as tribute. With the key, she could end that horror. Morpheus is moved by her honesty. Among them, one pitch stands out. The god Susanoo no Mikoto gives a surprisingly heartfelt proposal. He tells Morpheus that he once experienced exile in the underworld. Unlike others, he doesn't see hell as mere punishment. It's a place where endings can become beginnings, where people can change. Morpheus listens closely, clearly impressed. Lord Odin makes a strategic appeal. He says hell could be a buffer zone to avoid a coming war between Asgard, Jotunheim, and Svartalfheim. In exchange for Destruction's location, Morpheus's long-lost brother, he wants the key. Morpheus considers it, but Lucien interrupts. Azazel is requesting an audience, and he won't take no for an answer. Morpheus dreads it. He's already decided Azazel is unfit to rule, but he agrees to the meeting. First, Azazel offers Karanzan, the demon who once dared challenge Morpheus and stole his helm. But Morpheus isn't interested in revenge. Then, Azazel reveals his trump card, Nada. He claims to have her trapped within him, her torment echoing in the depths of his being. Morpheus can hear her, calling to him, pleading for release. Azazel offers to release her if Morpheus gives him the key to hell. Now Morpheus is torn. Dream sends Azazel back to his chambers and proceeds to have a chat with Lucien in the library. Lucien plays devil's advocate and makes a case for Azazel by saying that, technically speaking, he should be the one who gets the key because he has served in hell for such a long time. On top of that, if Dream fulfills his end of the deal, he'll be reunited with Nada. Dream says that he has only one reason for not giving him the key. Well, he has two. Firstly, Dream knows that as soon as Azazel becomes the ruler of hell, he'll use it as a foundation to begin his mission of colonizing every other realm in existence because of his incredible greed. And secondly, while Dream is concerned about Nada's fate, he doesn't like the fact that Azazel thinks he can extort him. So Lucien wonders, if Dream doesn't choose him, who amongst the other guests does he consider trustworthy? It is at this point that the episode cuts to Nuala, who is woken by her brother's carnal activities in the next room. As she goes to take a walk through the halls of Dream's castle, she runs into Morpheus, who is understandably vexed about the choice he has to make by the time the sun rises. Nuala assures him that he is perfectly capable of making impossible choices, because he has done it several times before. Nuala reminds Dream of the time he hosted a ceremony in the mortal realm for King Oberon and Queen Titania to repair his ties with the fairy folk. As per Nuala, there was a time when Dream used to visit Fairy pretty frequently, but then Dream's relationship with Titania changed, probably hinting at some kind of an extramarital affair. Or maybe they just had a disagreement. Either way, Dream was barred from Fairy, with its denizens being forbidden from even uttering his name. But then, on the 23rd of June 1593, Dream, with the help of William Shakespeare, yes, that one, organized a showing of A Midsummer Night's Dream in the Sussex Downs in England, and invited King Oberon, Queen Titania, and their entourage, which included Nuala, Cluracan, and Puck. Since the fairies were an integral part of Shakespeare's play, with Oberon, Titania, and Puck being the central characters, their real-life counterparts were hugely impressed by how Dream had managed to inspire humans. Puck actually went one step further and played himself on the stage, much to everyone's amusement. Now, while it's pretty apparent what this play is actually about, what's the point of orchestrating this whole thing? Well, from what I understood, in order to make up for his transgressions, Dream had ensured that Oberon, Titania, Puck, and the people of the fairy would be remembered and cherished by an entire species until the end of time. Evidently, that was enough for both Oberon and Titania to forgive Dream, and they lifted the ban. In the present day, Nuala tells Dream that, just like he got Oberon and Titania to reflect on their misgivings through a play, he needs to do something similar with the keyholder, so that they can understand themselves better by ruling hell. Dream thanks her for the advice, and for sharing an old memory. As the sun, I don't know if it's the sun or a sun that mimics the movement of Earth's sun, rises on the dreaming, Dream addresses all the contestants for Hell's Key at the lobby. He does a brief rundown of all the reasons that the participants of this contest have given him. Dream is tempted to side with the fairies and keep Hell empty, but that'll upset Azazel, since that's where he and his army have lived since the beginning of time. He completely, and hilariously, ignores Jemmy, Kilderkin, and Susano, and brings up the fact that Hell can never be an extension of Asgard, thereby disparaging Odin's request. Eventually, he focuses on Ramil and Duma, and trusts them with the key. Lucifer had said that Hell is a dark reflection of heaven. Also, Lucifer was an angel. Hence, it makes sense to give two angels the responsibility of taking care of Hell, because they know how to serve humanity through the powers vested in them, and not misuse them to cause harm to any realm. While nobody protests this decision, the arrogant Azazel threatens to kill Nada right in front of Dream. Morpheus reminds Azazel that his promise of protecting his guests extends to all those who are physically present in the dreaming. Since Azazel has Nada inside him, Azazel has a humanoid form, but he is also a realm. She is also under Dream's protection. Left with no other option, Azazel tries to bait Dream into reaching out for Nada and pulling her out of the demon's mouth. Dream does rescue Nada, but, for a split second, it seems like he has fallen for Azazel's trap and has been consumed by him. That's when Dream reminds Azazel that he is in the dreaming. When he is absent, yes, it's susceptible to a lot of damage. However, when he is in there, and he has all his weapons, everybody else is powerless against him. On that note, Dream traps Azazel in a glass bottle, and puts an end to his nonsense. Lucienne rushes Nada to the doctors. Physically, she hasn't been harmed, but she is obviously traumatized because she was in a prison in hell for 10,000 years, and then in the belly of a demon. After ensuring that Nada is recovering, Dream proceeds to say goodbye to all his guests. While everyone, including Lady Merkin, a part of Azazel's entourage, leaves peacefully, Cluracan and Loki throw some plot twists at Dream. Cluracan reveals that Titania has ordered him to give Nuala to Dream as a gift. Both Dream and Nuala are horrified at this prospect. But as Nuala comes to the harsh realization that she isn't welcome in Fairy, and the dreaming is a far more hospitable place for her, she chooses to stay. Dream gladly accepts Nuala's decision, and requests Lucienne and Taramis that they look after her like she is a part of their odd family. As for Loki, he has disguised himself as Susano, and disguised Susano as himself. That might have fooled the simple-minded Thor, who has taken Susano to Asgard, thinking that that's Loki. But nothing escapes Dream's eyes, especially in the dreaming, and he catches Loki red-handed trying to escape Asgardian punishment. Dream knows that Loki can be of use in the future. Therefore, Dream gives him a choice. If Loki chooses to stay in Dream's debt, he'll create a dream version of Loki, so as to prevent both the god of mischief and Susano from any kind of harm. If Loki chooses to not be under any kind of obligation, Dream will inform Odin of the trick Loki has played on him. Albeit reluctantly, Loki accepts Dream's terms and walks out of the dreaming, with the aim of partaking in all kinds of mischief in all the known realms. After informing Lucifer that he has successfully handed over the keys to Hell to the angels Ramil and Duma, Dream prepares for a confrontation with Nada. They convene at the dining room, and Dream tries to strike up a normal and casual conversation with her, but soon realizes that that's pointless until he addresses the elephant in the room. His decision to condemn Nada to 10,000 years in hell just because she didn't reciprocate his demand for her to be his queen. He is clearly apologetic, but the main issue is that he thinks that an apology could make up for what he forced Nada to endure. It doesn't take too long for Nada to walk up to Dream and whack him. Dream's kingly arrogance begins to surface, but it doesn't scare Nada because she doesn't have it in her to experience such emotions anymore. She has suffered so much that she is not afraid to face another round of Dream's wrath. Hence, Dream doesn't waste another second and comes up with a proper apology, laced with phrases like eternal regret. Nada says that it's pointless to punish oneself by constantly thinking about the past. Dream realizes that Nada is ready to script her future. He assumes that he is going to be a part of it, but Nada says that that's not the case at all. She is going to go to the mortal world and try and make up for all the lost time on her own. She doesn't want Dream to interfere in any shape or form. Dream tries to profess his love to Nada, but she retorts, point blank, that Dream's kind isn't capable of love. Dream is in mourning. After his devastating encounter with Nada, he stands alone on his balcony, unsure of what to do next. That's when he learns an intruder has been apprehended by the Wyvern. It turns out to be his younger sister, Delirium. She's come to ask for his help. Delirium has already been turned down by her sisters, Desire and Despair, and Dream is her last hope. She wants to find their missing brother, Destruction. No one has dared search for him. Destruction made it clear he wanted to be left alone, and he abandoned his realm, a shameful act among the endless. But Delirium, in her fractured way, can't stop imagining worst-case scenarios. What if he's in trouble? What if he needs them? Dream is skeptical. He believes Destruction left by choice, not by force. And when Delirium mentions that she visited Desire before coming here, Dream grows suspicious. He immediately goes to the gallery and confronts Desire, accusing her of planting this reckless idea in Delirium's mind. Desire denies it. For once, she sounds honest. She may be manipulative, but this time she claims no responsibility, and Dream believes her. He senses the sincerity behind her words, rare as it is. Still, it surprises everyone, including Lucienne, when Dream agrees to accompany Delirium. The real reason? Desire suggests that while searching for Destruction, Dream might also find Nada in the waking world. Until that moment, he hadn't even considered the possibility. But once the idea takes root, it refuses to leave him. He says it's about helping Delirium, but really, he's hoping to catch a glimpse of the woman he lost. Delirium gives him a list, 3 people she remembers Destruction being close to, a long-lived mortal, a god, and a figure of myth. Dream recognizes the names and agrees to find them. The first is Bernard Capax, one of the 60 mortals who remember mammoths and saber-toothed cats. But just as they're about to meet him, Dream and Delirium learn he has died in an accident. Dream knows this can't be coincidence. Someone doesn't want them finding Destruction. He wants to abandon the search, but Delirium, in her stubborn grief, begs him to continue. And Dream, fueled partly by his own secret hopes, agrees. They contact the god Pharamond, now living as Mr. Feral in the waking world. His assistant, Wanda, becomes their guide. She drives them across the country and helps them navigate Earth. On the road, Wanda opens up about her life. She's a trans woman who started hormone therapy at 15, always fearing her parents' rejection. She loves the land of Oz, especially the part where the protagonist, born a girl, is forced to live as a boy until one day she can finally live as her true self. That fantasy resonates with Wanda, but she knows the real world isn't as kind. Dream listens and asks if seeing her parents would bring her peace. From that moment, he quietly resolves to make it happen. Next, they seek out the god of war and love, Ishtar, also known as Balili. When she sees Dream at her club, she's furious. She once loved Destruction, but Dream thought she was a bad influence and drove them apart. She accuses him of meddling. Dream is stunned to learn that Destruction told her everything. He explains the deaths that have followed them, Bernard, and now others, and begs her to help. But Ishtar knows what this means. By contacting her, Dream has unknowingly signed her death warrant. Someone is ensuring that anyone who knew Destruction dies before they can reveal his whereabouts. Accepting her fate, Ishtar dons her divine form and performs one final, radiant dance. The entire club goes up in flames. Wanda is among the dead. Dream is shattered. He'd promised to help her reconnect with her family, but now, it's too late. As he stands in the ashes, Desire appears, twisting the knife. She demands that Dream tell Delirium the truth, that he never cared about finding Destruction, only Nada. When Dream confesses, Delirium is crushed. She tells both her siblings to never contact her again and vanishes from the waking world. Back at his hidden refuge, Destruction senses their approach. Speaking to his loyal companion Barnabas, a talking dog, he remarks that someone is coming for him, and that he's ready for it. Dream returns home and tasks Lucienne with finding out who's killing everyone who might point him and Delirium toward Destruction. But before she begins, Lucienne asks the one question no one's dared to voice. Why did Destruction leave? Dream admits that he alone is to blame. We're pulled back to 1675 London, to the shadowed halls of Arundel House, where Dream once stood with Destruction. His brother had grown weary of human progress. He feared that with every discovery, like Newton's work on optics, humanity was inching closer to annihilation. Destruction wanted to intervene, to slow their advancement and avert catastrophe. But Dream disagreed. He believed humanity's cycles of ruin and renewal were inevitable, just echoes of patterns he'd seen across other worlds. To him, interfering was pointless. So when Dream refused to help, Destruction laid down his responsibilities and disappeared. Lucienne understands. She may not agree with Destruction abandoning his post, but she grasps his reasoning. Dream, however, clings to duty. There should be no shame in fulfilling one's role, he insists. Lucienne challenges that, if your duty leads to death, shame is inevitable. The words sink deeper than Dream expected, which is why he attends Wanda's funeral. He finds her buried under the old name Alvin, stripped of her identity. Her family claims they're trying to save her soul, believing her transness was punished by God. But Dream knows better. God didn't take Wanda. She died simply because she was caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. When her aunt reveals a trace of compassion, Dream reassures her. Wanda was happy. Then, in a quiet act of defiance and grace, he places Wanda's favorite book, The Marvelous Land of Oz, on her grave and carves her true name into the stone. As death arrives to guide Wanda to the afterlife, she reminds Dream that Delirium still needs him. Destruction is gone. They cannot afford to lose another sibling. So death breaks protocol and pushes Dream to enter Delirium's realm uninvited. As far as I know, the path to the realms of the endless is pretty simple. But in Delirium's case, it's a trippy subway train filled with oddball and seductive conjurings. Dream is almost distracted by a vision of Nada, but he is quick to realize that Delirium is testing him on whether or not he still intends to use his sister to search for the love of his life. So he pushes that vision version of Nada aside and goes after Delirium. Upon reaching her realm, Dream partakes in some small talk, something that he rarely does, and then straight up apologizes to Delirium, which he does even more rarely. Dream admits that he isn't worthy of Delirium's forgiveness, yet he hopes that she'll be kind enough to resume her quest to find Destruction and allow him to be by her side. And once Delirium is sure that they like each other very much, her mood becomes relatively positive, and she agrees to restart their mission. Dream proposes a change in strategy. They'll stop chasing Destruction's old friends. Too many have died. Instead, they seek out Destiny. As expected, Destiny is unwilling to help Dream and Delirium because, well, he doesn't want to defy Destruction's orders. That said, he does advise them to take the help of an oracle. Dream realizes that Destiny is talking about Orpheus, the son he has with Calliope. What's the issue with Dream approaching Orpheus? Well, as per a flashback to 1700 BC Greece, Orpheus was set to marry the love of his life, Eurydice. Orpheus dreamt of Eurydice's death, and he shared his apprehensions about his wife with Dream, but he kept Orpheus from dwelling on it too much because he knew that her demise was inevitable. The festivities went fine. Every single member of the Endless was in attendance. Everyone had fun. However, when Eurydice and Orpheus went into the glades to consummate their marriage, a snake showed up from nowhere and killed her immediately. Death showed up to collect Eurydice's soul, and that was that. Orpheus was so distraught that he didn't even show up at her funeral. Dream reached out to his son and tried to convince him to grieve so that he could eventually move on. Instead of heeding Dream's advice, Orpheus asked him if he could go to the underworld and ask King Hades and Queen Persephone to resurrect Eurydice. Dream knew that it wouldn't be so simple, and the rulers of the underworld would definitely ask something in exchange for Eurydice's soul, e.g., Orpheus's soul. Since Dream didn't want to make such a trade, he shut down Orpheus. In retaliation, Orpheus renounced himself as Dream's son and walked away. Orpheus was so determined to reach the underworld that he was ready to jump off a cliff and die. Destruction stopped his nephew from doing so and advised him to seek Death's advice, because she'd know more about the underworld than anybody else. He even helped Orpheus enter Death's realm, which was surprisingly modern. Even in 1700 BC, Orpheus asked Death to send him to the underworld so that he could rescue Eurydice. Death said that of course, she had the ability to send anyone to the underworld, but she made sure that the main disclaimer that came with the journey was burnt into his brain. What was that disclaimer? Well, basically, a round trip to the underworld will make one immortal, but you won't be invincible. So if you're hurt, paralyzed, maimed, or dismembered, you'll experience that pain forever. Orpheus was naive and committed enough to not grasp the gravity of what he was about to do. Hence, as soon as Death opened the back door to the underworld, he waltzed right in, armed with just his harp. After crossing a treacherous bridge, Orpheus was stopped in his tracks by the three fates, because, technically, he was trespassing. Somehow he convinced them to allow him to talk to Hades and Persephone, and they obliged. Before Orpheus could put forth his request, Persephone ordered him to sing a song, since he was famous for his voice. Orpheus sang about Eurydice, her death, and how he wanted her back. Impressed by Orpheus's performance, Hades and Persephone accepted his request. But they added a condition to test Orpheus's love for Eurydice, and also to hold a mirror in front of Orpheus so that he could see whether his claim that his love for Eurydice was more powerful than death was true. Eurydice would follow Orpheus into the mortal realm, like his shadow. However, during that journey, Orpheus wasn't allowed to turn around and look at her. If he did, Eurydice would be pulled back into the underworld. If Orpheus managed to complete the journey without turning around, and both Orpheus and Eurydice were out of the underworld and into the sunlight, then they'd be reunited. Of course, Orpheus failed at this simple task, and Eurydice was banished into the shadow realm seemingly for all eternity. Success was this close, and yet this idiot failed. Was so disappointed, Orpheus went to Calliope to whine about his mistake that cost him his one chance to reunite with Eurydice. Calliope was of the opinion that Dream should have gone in Orpheus's stead, then all this probably wouldn't have happened. Hence she divorced Dream, because this was the last straw for her, after she had tried to change him for the past few centuries. Orpheus, who had been informed earlier that the Dionysuses, Sisters of the Frenzy, wants to kill him, decides to let them slay him without putting up a fight, so he could finally go into the underworld and be with Eurydice. I suppose he had forgotten about the fact that he was incapable of dying anymore. Hence, when he got himself killed at the hands of the sisters and had his head severed from his body, he remained conscious in the mortal realm. The following day, Dream found Orpheus, just his head, and he was begging him to put him out of his misery. Even though Orpheus had announced that he was no longer Dream's son, he was still related to the Endless by blood. Therefore, Dream was not allowed to kill him. On top of that, yes, Dream wasn't ruthless enough to kill his own son, just because he had acted like an idiot. Instead, he made arrangements with the priests of an island who would take care of Orpheus, whatever was left of him, forever. And he vowed to never meet him again. In the present day, circumstances have changed, and Dream needs Orpheus's help to complete Delirium's mission. But, as per destiny, he'll do so only if Dream agrees to end his life. This brings things back to the original conundrum. Spilling family blood will cause mayhem. Since Dream has come this far for Delirium's sake, of course he is going to kill Orpheus. But the repercussions of that action will be horrifying. Episode 6 of the Sandman Season 2 begins in England, 1794, where Lady Johanna Constantine, ancestor of the demon hunter we met in Season 1, receives an unexpected visitor, Morpheus. The Dream King tasks her with recovering the head of Orpheus, his son, now held in France. Robespierre, fearing Orpheus's prophetic powers, has imprisoned him. Johanna manages to steal the head, but two soldiers spot her. While hiding, she and Orpheus strike up a conversation. He misses his father and wonders if Morpheus is behind his rescue. Johanna hesitates, unable to say yes. She's been forbidden from revealing her employer. Come morning, Robespierre and his men arrive. Unable to find Orpheus, they arrest Johanna instead. In her dreams, Morpheus appears and asks after his son. Johanna tells him Orpheus is still spirited, not broken, and pleads for help. Morpheus suggests Orpheus should sing. Back in the waking world, Robespierre offers Johanna a deal: return the oracle or die. She pretends to comply. Having hidden Orpheus among multiple severed heads, she retrieves him, and on cue, he sings a haunting song of liberty. The soldiers fall into a trance, allowing Johanna and Orpheus to escape. Not long after, Robespierre himself is guillotined, marking the end of his reign of terror. Johanna brings Orpheus back to his island sanctuary. She's reluctant to leave and jokes about visiting him again. Orpheus warns her not to fall for a severed head, but admits he still hopes his father will visit. When Johanna delivers that message, Morpheus doesn't respond. Instead, he pays her fee, but she asks only for more time with Orpheus. In the present day, Delirium and Morpheus arrive on the island. Johanna has long since died and been buried there. Delirium is visibly nervous. She knows what's coming. If an Endless spills family blood, the wrath of the fates will follow. But Morpheus has made up his mind. His son has suffered enough. When Morpheus enters the temple, Orpheus welcomes him with peace. Their reunion is tender, filled with mutual apologies. Morpheus admits he once refused to grant Orpheus death because he couldn't bear to live in a world without him. But now, he's ready. He fulfills the promised boon. Orpheus's long suffering finally ends. Outside, Delirium waits, sensing what's happened. Her face falls. The boon is granted, but the cost is heavy. The siblings then travel to one final destination. Destruction lives nearby, and their reunion is bittersweet. Delirium is full of questions. Morpheus confronts their brother, angry that he left a trail of death behind. Destruction admits it was a protective measure. Anyone who tried to lead them to him died. He's amused that Morpheus, once so detached from humanity, now mourns their loss. Destruction refuses to return. He reminds them that destruction doesn't need him to exist. It happens regardless, and he refuses to bear the blame for it. Still, he's glad to see them. He tells Delirium that he left because he loves humanity too much to destroy it. He gives her Barnabas, his dog, as a companion, then embraces his siblings and disappears into the stars. Delirium is grateful for the closure, but the joy fades when she remembers the price they paid. Orpheus is gone. Morpheus returns to the dreaming, hollowed. He tells Lucienne to have the priests bury what remains of his son. Alone, he tries to wash the blood from his hands, but the guilt clings. He breaks down, finally letting the tears fall. As the episode closes, The Fates, Maiden, Mother, and Crone repeat the three prophecies first given to Destiny. The first speaks of a king who would forsake his kingdom, Morpheus, who has now left the dreaming twice. The second warns of a clash between life and death, Eurydice and Orpheus. The third hints at an ancient battle returning. A war is coming. The Crone cuts a black thread, a fate severed. The Dream King has spilled family blood. For that, he will face divine punishment. That's it for the Sandman Season 2, Volume 1 recap. Check back here when Volume 2 drops for the next recap.